Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We are going to be tackling a pretty interesting topic, the whole thing with Ozempic and the body positivity movement that you're probably already pretty familiar with. Body positivity in general. It's about, loving yourself at any size and challenging those beauty standards we see all over the place. And yeah, it's had some definite wins along the way, but there's also been some criticism too. Like some people say it focuses too much on one specific group, and maybe it hasn't been as inclusive as it could be. And now we have Ozempic, this new weight loss drug. It seems like it's everywhere these days, and people are seeing some pretty big changes, dropping pounds really quickly, and it's got everyone talking. But it also raises a really big question for us. How does a medical solution like this for weight loss fit in with a movement that's all about accepting yourself no matter what you look like? Can those two things even exist in the same conversation? Or is this forcing the body positivity movement to kind of rethink things a little bit? So to help us really sort through all of this, we've got our expert here with us, ready to break down these really complicated ideas and help us see that bigger picture. So one of the first things that comes to mind for me is this worry that Ozempic might actually be adding to that pressure to be thin, that societal message we've all been dealing with forever. It's almost like people are afraid this drug could undo all the progress the body positivity movement has made. And then there's this other thing that's popped up, this Ozempic look. I mean, it's one thing to lose weight, but we're seeing a really specific look here. Think like gaunt faces, almost hollowed out. Not in that 90s heroin chic way, though. And because of how quickly people are losing weight, there's often this excess skin, which I imagine just adds another layer of insecurity. So the question is, are we kind of accidentally creating a new and possibly unhealthy beauty standard?
I think you've hit a key point there. Ozempic is almost like adding fuel to the fire of that societal pressure to conform to a certain body type, something that's been happening forever. I mean, let's think about how beauty standards have changed over time. We've gone from celebrating curves to idolizing this ultra-thin, waif-like figure, and now, with Ozempic, we might be seeing a swing back towards that thin ideal, but with this new layer of the Ozempic look on top of it. And the danger there is that we could be creating these expectations that are just impossible for most people to meet.
And get this, we're seeing body positivity influencers actually using Ozempic themselves, which I'm sure is pretty confusing for their followers. On the one hand, they're promoting self-love at any size. But then on the other hand, they're taking this drug that's designed to change their size. It almost seems like they're sending a mixed message.
It really raises the question, can you genuinely be an advocate for self-acceptance at any size while you're actively trying to change your size? Through medication. It forces us to really examine the core values of the movement and whether they can really hold up against these new weight loss options. It also shines a light on the complicated relationship between health and body acceptance.
It's really complex. On one side, you have this idea of loving your body as it is, and then on the other, there are legitimate health concerns that can come with being overweight. So does this mean the body positivity movement needs to kind of adjust its position to make room for individual choices about health,
Right.
even if those choices involve weight loss? And how do we balance that with that core message of self-love and acceptance?
It's a tough balance to strike. I think what's happening is that Ozempic, whether intentionally or not, is pushing the body positivity movement. Have some hard conversations. They're being forced to look at their values and figure out how to handle these incredibly nuanced situations. It's like holding two opposite ideas in your mind at the same time and trying to make sense of both of them.
Exactly. And it gets even more complicated because the body positivity movement itself has been getting some criticism lately. Some say it's become too focused on making money, that the message has gotten watered down, and like we said before, that it's not inclusive enough.
I think it's fair to say that the movement has evolved. And with that evolution, there have been some valid criticisms. There's a real worry that it's become more about selling products than creating real change. And the lack of diversity has definitely been a major issue.
But here's the thing. Despite all of that, the research we've been looking at really stresses that the body positivity movement is still incredibly important. They point out that even people who use weight loss drugs like Ozempic often still struggle with how they feel about their bodies. This seems to tell us that self-acceptance goes beyond just physical appearance. It's about a fundamental change in how we view ourselves.
It's about recognizing our worth as individuals, completely separate from what we see in the mirror.
And that's where the movement's focus on challenging those societal beauty standards becomes so crucial, especially now with Ozempic on the scene. Think about it. We are constantly bombarded with messages about how we should look, and it's incredibly hard to ignore them.
That constant pressure to fit into a mold, especially with this seemingly quick fix available now. With Ozempic, it makes the body positivity message even more important today.
You know, it's almost like this whole Ozempic phenomenon is selling us this idea that happiness and feeling good about yourself are just a pill away. But isn't true self-acceptance a lot more complicated than that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a much deeper journey than just changing your body.
It's about changing your mindset, your whole relationship with yourself. That's not something a drug can do for you, is it?
Right. It's about that internal shift. The way you see yourself, the way you talk to yourself, that's the real work.
So where do we go from here? It feels like we're at this crossroads where we have this incredible medical advancement that can help people lose weight. But at the same time, it has the potential to undermine this whole idea accepting yourself as you are.
It's a real dilemma. And I think it's important to say, there are no simple answers here. We can't just demonize people who choose to use Ozempic or other weight loss solutions. It's a personal choice. And for some people, it might be the best choice for their health and well-being.
Absolutely. It's not our place to judge anyone's choices. Everyone has their own reasons.
But we can't ignore the bigger societal impact that a drug like Ozempic could have if it becomes the norm, if being thin becomes the ultimate goal again. What happens to those who can't or choose not to conform? Are we going backwards as a society?
And what does this mean for the body positivity movement? Does it need to change, evolve somehow?
I think it has to. The movement can't just pretend Ozempic doesn't exist. It needs to find a way to deal with these new realities, while still staying true to its core values. Maybe it starts with acknowledging how complex this is, understanding that there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to body image or health.
Maybe it's about encouraging people to really think about the choices they're making and why they're making them, to dig a little deeper.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that self-acceptance is a process, a journey, not a destination. It's not about achieving some perfect body ideal, but about learning to appreciate and love the body you have right now.
That's a really powerful message, especially in today's world. But it also makes me wonder, how can we balance individual choice with what's best for society as a whole? We want people to feel empowered to make decisions about their bodies, but we also need to consider the messages those choices send and how they might impact others.
That's the big question, isn't it? It's this ongoing dance between personal freedom and collective responsibility, and it's a conversation we need to keep having.
You're right. It's not about finding the perfect solution, but about keeping the conversation going, keeping it open and honest. So let's dive a little deeper into that. How can the body positivity movement stay relevant and effective in this new landscape, with all its complexities?
It's a definite challenge. One idea is that maybe it's less about rejecting all forms of weight loss and more about promoting healthy choices. It could be about supporting those who choose Ozempic, while also challenging the idea that it's some kind of magical solution to all of life's problems.
Imagine you're a body positivity influencer. You've built this whole following based on self-love at any size. And then this drug comes along that could drastically change your body. What do? Do you try it, or do you stick to your message? Even if you personally struggle with your weight, these are the real dilemmas that Ozempic is presenting.
For the movement.
It's forcing them to confront these very real, very personal questions. And it's a conversation that's happening within the movement itself, among influencers, advocates, and everyday people. That's what makes this whole topic so interesting. It's not just about a drug. It's about how we view ourselves and each other in a world that's constantly changing.
Right. And it's forcing us to confront some deep-seated beliefs about beauty, health, and worthiness. Beliefs that we've held onto for a long time.
It almost feels like we're redefining what it means to be healthy in this age of Ozempic. And the body positivity movement needs to be part of that conversation, right?
Absolutely. And I think a big part of that redefinition is acknowledging that health and well-being are about so much more than how we look. It's about our mental health, our emotional well-being, and having a positive relationship with our bodies.
So maybe the movement needs to evolve, to embrace a more holistic view of health, one that recognizes that people have different needs and goals, and those goals might include weight loss.
Exactly. It's about supporting individual choices. We're still pushing back against those societal pressures that make people feel like they have to change their bodies to be accepted.
It's like walking a tightrope. How do we support that desire for self-improvement without feeding into this idea that there's only one right way to look?
That's the challenge. And there isn't an easy answer. But one approach might be to focus on promoting body neutrality.
Body neutrality, what's that?
It's about shifting the focus away from how our bodies look and towards what they can do. It's about appreciating our bodies for their functionality and strength instead of constantly judging them based on how they look.
I like that. It takes the pressure off of having to love every single part of yourself all the time, which, let's be honest, can be really hard. And it encourages you to just accept your body for what it is and what it lets you do.
Exactly. And I think that acceptance can be a really powerful starting point for building a healthier relationship with yourself, whether or not you decide to pursue weight loss.
So how can the body positivity movement promote this idea of body neutrality in a way that feels authentic and inclusive?
Well, one way is to focus on sharing diverse voices and experiences. Remember that criticism we talked about earlier, about the movement not being inclusive enough? This is a chance to really address that.
By showcasing people of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds,
Right.
and highlighting their stories and their journeys of self-acceptance.
Yes. And it's not just about representation. It's about giving those voices a platform to challenge the limited definitions of beauty and health that we see everywhere.
That makes me think about another possibility. Could the movement work with medical professionals to promote a more responsible conversation around weight loss drugs like Ozempic?
That's an interesting idea. Imagine if there were resources available that offered a balanced perspective on the benefits and the risks of these medications. Resources that help people make informed choices about their health without feeling pressured by all those societal expectations.
It would be amazing if the movement could help shift the conversation away from quick fixes and towards a more sustainable approach to health and well-being. An approach that recognizes there's no magic bullet and that true self-acceptance is a process.
It's a process that takes compassion, self-awareness, and a willingness to challenge those messages we've internalized about our bodies.
And it's a process that's different for everyone. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
That's a really important point, and I think it highlights the need for the body positivity movement to move beyond rigid rules and embrace a more fluid and adaptable philosophy.
So instead of telling people what to think or how to feel about their bodies, it's more about giving them the tools and support to navigate their own journeys of self-acceptance.
Precisely. It's about empowering people to make choices that are right for them, choices that align with their values and goals, without judgment or shame.
Okay, so let's say the body positivity movement embraces these ideas: body neutrality, diverse representation, a more holistic view of health. What would that look like in practice? What kind of impact could it have on people and on society as a whole?
Well, I think for individuals, it could lead to a stronger sense of self-worth and acceptance, no matter their body size or shape. It could help people feel more comfortable and confident in their own skin, which could have a positive impact on their relationships, their careers, even their overall well-being.
And what about the impact on society?
I think it could help create a more inclusive and accepting culture, one that values diversity and recognizes the inherent worth of every person. Imagine a world where we celebrate our differences instead of trying to erase them, a world where we're not constantly bombarded with messages telling us we need to change who we are to be worthy of love and acceptance.
That sounds like an amazing world to live in, but it also sounds like a huge shift. From where we are now, how do we even start to create that kind of change?
It starts with taking small steps. It starts with having these conversations, with challenging our own biases and assumptions, and with being open to listening to and learning from others.
It's about recognizing that we're all on this journey together and that we can support each other.
And it's about remembering that true self-acceptance isn't a finish line. It's a journey, a lifelong process of growth and evolution.
It's about embracing the messy, imperfect beauty of being human. You know, it's almost like this whole conversation about Ozempic and body positivity. It's kind of a snapshot of those bigger changes happening in society. It's about, challenging how things are, redefining what it means to be healthy and happy, and making room for more diverse voices and perspectives.
Yeah, it's about realizing that. Trying to fit everyone into one ideal, whether it's thinness or something else, can often leave some people behind. And it's about finding a way to create a world that's more inclusive and fair, a world that celebrates how different we all are.
I think it's safe to say this conversation is going to keep going, right? As new technology comes out. As we learn more about health and well-being, we're going to keep having to wrestle with these questions about body image, self-acceptance, and societal pressures.
Definitely. And the body positivity movement has such an important role to play in shaping that conversation. It's about pushing boundaries, challenging the norms, and fighting for a world that's more just and compassionate for all bodies.
It's about creating a world where everyone feels seen, valued, and empowered to be their true selves. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I think it's good to remember where we started. We began this whole discussion with the question of how a medical solution like Ozempic fits into a movement that's about self-acceptance. And I think what we've found is there's no easy answer. It's complicated. And it really makes us think about what's important to us.
And I think the most important thing we've learned is this isn't just about Ozempic. It's about so much more. It's about understanding that true self-acceptance is a journey, not a destination. It's about learning to love and appreciate our bodies for who they are, not for what society says they should be. It's about celebrating our differences, challenging the norms, and working towards a world that embraces all kinds of beauty.
So if the goal is truly self-acceptance, how can the body positivity movement adapt to deal with the challenges that come with things like Ozempic? Is there a way to reconcile these seemingly opposite ideas of embracing self-love while also recognizing that desire for self-improvement? It's a question we should all think about. And I think it begins with being willing to have those open and honest conversations about these really complex issues.
It starts with really listening to each other, challenging our own biases, and being open to different points of view. Because in the end, it's not about finding the right answer. It's about making space for dialogue, for empathy, and for understanding.
And recognizing that we all have a part to play in creating a world that's more inclusive and accepting. So as we leave you today, we encourage you to reflect on your own relationship with your body and with the messages you're getting from society. Think critically about the choices you make and the values that guide you. And remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are enough, just as you are